Trump is going to strip away your birthright citizenship. Let's just go for it. Let's talk about it. I'm going to go through everything, listen to everything I'm telling you. I've done research for literally since late last year, because I worked on Kamala Harris's campaign. I'm going to basically give you about 7 different things you need to think about. Be ready to walk through this. I'm going to talk about different classes of people and where they're coming from and what the real goal is, okay? So listen in this whole entirety here and share with others. Number 1, his goal is to strip Americans of their citizenship. Who he desires is not American, which is mean, of course, non-white. His goal is to declassify Americans he can't strip citizenship from, like African Americans, who he can't just take their stuff away, but he can make it where they're declassified for advantages or for opportunities or for anything that comes into this country. And if your parents were born somewhere else and you were born here, he's trying to take that away either retroactively or now, meaning retroactively right now, or he's trying to take that away for future citizenship, or at the very least, leave it ambiguous. So he introduced and asked the Supreme Court to review a birthright citizenship, which has been something around for the last 100 plus years. And basically, it's been founded since the 1890s that Americans are Americans, even if their parents are from other countries, if their child is born here in America. What he wants to do is strip that away so that they don't have that citizenship, they don't have that right, they don't have the benefits that come with that, like health care, like food services, like social services that they would need, housing opportunities, job opportunities. He wants to take that all away and just make sure that the people in this country have it. But even the people who are in this country, if they are not white, then they're going to have disadvantages, like black people and like Latinos who were born here in America and their parents were born here in America. So they're going to look at this, the Supreme Court. And I just want to prepare you for the worst. There's still a shot that they may go against it. But they're going to look at this and see if this is something they're ready to do or not. Now, it's a combination of things. Early the next year, they're going to be reading in on the Voting Rights Act. And I've been telling black folks, get ready. What that means is that they're going to take away the Voting Rights Act most likely. Hopefully they don't. But if they take away the Voting Rights Act, that means that a whole bunch of black and brown people are screwed in the South, because southern states are going to try to gerrymander so hard that black and brown people don't have representation in the House of Representatives. That's what this whole gerrymandering thing's about. The 435 House of Representatives, we got, I think it's 60 black people alone, not including the Latino communities and other communities. But the point is having representation in those areas. The less representation, the less likely you're going to get any kind of legislation done on behalf of those groups of people. Bringing it back to birthright citizenship, if you can take away the citizenship and at the very least scare the hell out of people who are here, who this would affect greatly, such as Latino Americans and African Americans from Africa and, from the Caribbean, from anywhere else, they can come in and decide, well, you're no longer a citizen, no more benefits for you, no more opportunities for you. You're not going to get in because you're in a different class. See, this isn't a war on race as much as it is on class, which leads to race. Of course, it is racial. Racism is about declassifying people so that the other race in charge, whites, can take over. Racist whites. I'm not calling everybody racism, all whites racist, but this is ridiculous, right? And the reason this is happening is that we have this curtailed breakdown. So let me break it down to you like this. There are 3 scenarios. I told you there were 7 things. 3 scenarios. The first scenario is broad and ambiguous. And the Supreme Court gives a broad, ambiguous lead to that, which is horrible because when you go broad and ambiguous with Trump, he decides what he wants to decide, which is not good. The super worst scenario is making all of these birthright citizenships retroactive, which would be a disaster. That means everybody who was an American citizen ain't because even though their parents had them in this country. The third way of doing this is making it going forward. We've seen this happen this year where Planned Parenthood was able to get some things done with a ton of children who were born here going retroactively. And they were able to get injunctions from judges nationally in a very rare case after the Supreme Court had said, we're going to make this where it's this injunction thing statewide with the exception of certain cases. And the certain cases with the ACLU did with Planned Parenthood was made it through them where these kids could be citizens. And it's crazy. I know it's a lot of legalese today I'm going through. But I want you to understand the overall thing. Let me call it out to different classes of people. Because I was going to call out the other four things. I really think it's best that you hear it this way. If you're Latin and your parents were not born in America, or anybody else whose parents, whether you're Latin or not, your parents weren't born in America, but you were born here, yeah, there's a danger that they could either, A, going forward, make sure that anybody who was born like you were born can't have the opportunity, or B, retroactively try to strip your citizenship. I'm going to talk about what things can be done in a minute. Secondly, if you're an African American, meaning you were descended from an enslaved people here like myself, who were born here, no, they cannot take away your citizenship. Let me be very clear. There's a lot of people misdirecting that. That is not true. However, they're going to do as much as they can to declassify any benefits from you to make your ass feel like you want to leave. Okay? For people who are from Africa or from the Caribbean or from wherever who are black, whose parents were both born elsewhere, but you were born here, yeah, you gonna catch it. It's bad. You in the same situation as the first group of people I talked about. It's bad. Whether you Latino or whatever, you know, it's bad. Those of you who are already not citizens, it's going to be rough. What can we do? The first thing you need to do is look up free immigration lawyers in your state, because every state has them. They're spending millions to support immigration, the immigration truth, and what's being fought and what's being done. Now, that's the beginning part. Do not comply or capitulate with whatever messages they're sending. You know they set you up to take you and to deport you, right? And I made this argument with thousands of people before, with their parents, grandparents. There's a couple of people I cannot find right now who were, part of my clarity group, who I cannot find because of this deportation stuff. Facts. What I'm trying to tell you, and I was arguing for them not to go to the courtroom. You've heard about that, right? Going to the courthouse. And they were not listening. I'm going to tell you like this, and I think this is your best bet to understand that you're going to have to get with an immigration attorney in your state. And no, they're not going to tell you in by law. They can't tell anybody anything about your stuff. You are protected by law with an attorney, and just talk to them. There are free counseling services. You can Google and Chat GPT them. They're all over the place, okay? You can find them, I promise you. You got to go into that because they've been fighting all year, this thing. So you can get the right information on your next steps and see what this really means. What this really comes down to is they're not making, the Supreme Court, they're not making this decision right now. So do not freak out. You have about, I don't know how soon in the year they're going to make a decision, but it sounds like probably the middle of the year at the most. You know, we're talking about 6 months. You have time, but don't wait. Reach out to that immigration attorney and do what needs to be done. Don't fuck around. Thou shalt not fuck around. The other thing is to understand that even though these three groups I talked about, I said people who are black, people who are Latino, people who are Asian, people whose parents were not from America, born from America, but you were born here, you need to be at those attorneys right now like yesterday. African Americans born from here who are like myself, who are descended from an enslaved people, you do not. You do not. They're not coming at you like that. What I would tell you to do is get with the NAACP and see what actions are being done. By the way, the NAACP been fighting like a motherfucker. Big respects to the NAACP. I keep repeatedly saying to everyone, join the NAACP, join Indivisible, and join the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, because those have been the main organizations that have been fighting along with hundreds of other nonprofit organizations around the country to fight this. There are people who are fighting this in court. Remember, when they say they're going to have an open look and open arguments as a Supreme Court, that means we have our side fighting that on behalf. Most likely, it's going to be the ACLU and other people are coming in together with the ACLU to fight this, and whatever you can do to support that, that would be fantastic. Now, some people are like, but Darren, they take the citizenship as horrible. Let's talk real here for a moment. Can we really talk turkey? These crazy mofos been taking American citizens right now illegally to other countries, whether it be El Salvador or Timbuktu. You got Judge Boasberg, who had to go through how many months? 6, 7 months of appeals to go back to investigating the Alien Enemies Act, where they shipped those people off to El Salvador after he said no in writing and verbally. They illegally did it and gave no fucks and still give no fucks. Who's they? Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem. They are in trouble, especially Stephen Miller. He's named in several potential contempt of courts. So as all of you are sitting here going, well, what about birthright citizenship? Well, what about what's happening right now? Because right now, this is going on. This is happening. You got some choices. Those of you who are directly affected by this, again, getting with an immigration attorney. There are free services out there. Don't fall for the scams. There are free companies and free services out there, okay, that are already being funded as nonprofits who have been working like crazy. They can get some data to you. You also have some other choices. What are you doing to prepare in case they do try to do this? What are you doing? What's your exit plan? What's your plan B? If you're like, fuck you, I ain't going nowhere, okay, cool. But what's your plan B? Where you going to live? Where you going to go? How are you going to survive? These are the things you need to be thinking about now. Also, for African Americans born from an enslaved people, I'm not kidding about getting with the NAACP. I'm really not fucking around with that. And the ACLU, I'm just not fucking around with that. Because you want to know, what does it mean to be declassified? There are 300,000 plus black women who've lost their jobs in both corporate and government and the government this year over this Trump shit. Okay? And that's just the beginning. He don't want nobody getting nothing. None. And if that means poor white people got to suffer, they do too, because they're using the majority of SNAP benefits. They're using the majority of Medicaid, Medicare, Affordable Care Act. And the big, beautiful bullshit bill is going to start next year, but it's really going to kick in late next year after the election, because they don't want that in front of them losing, which they're going to lose greatly anyway. The big choices you got to understand is that this is ugly. Now, if the Democrats come in, and this is the big question that comes up, if the Democrats come in, can they fight this shit off? Can they fight it off? Can they take this on? Can they battle this somehow? Can they battle it and reverse things. There are some things they can do through executive orders. There are some key things they can do, but if the Supreme Court has ruled this way, there are things that they could make a fight easier for, especially on behalf of states and themselves, like the Democratic states and themselves. If you're in a red state, it's just like with Roe versus Wade. That wasn't as effective in a blue state as it was in a red state. But I'll tell you this: make sure, one, you get your ass to a blue state. Number two, it's gonna get ugly. I've said this before. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And it's not to fearmonger you or be the alarmist or none of that. I just want you to know the real facts up front instead of just bullshitting you and telling you it's going to be all right. You know, I believe that things will work out, but it's going to be a lot worse before it gets better. Because here's the thing that you should really be concerned with is the fact that we have a Supreme Court, even though they're 1%, what they keep bringing to that 1% is some dangerous shit. And the problem is that something's up with the Supreme. There's just something that don't seem quite right, because it's not that they're conservative. We expect them to be conservative, but they're cutting off their own powers, and they're going against stuff that was clearly argued over for decades and 100 years. And now they're going for the old shit and they flipping everything back like, whoa, wasn't that argued before? That ain't new. Isn't that argued before? Don't you think it's interesting? They want to argue citizenship, but they don't want to argue gay marriage. Let's think about that. Here's the thing. This citizenship thing is a major rollout of declassification of Americans, because they don't want black and brown people or Asian people having nothing. They don't want you having nothing. The only way they want you having something is if you are coming over from a country, you get one of those, H-1B visas or whatever, and they can control you. That's the only reason they want your educated ass here, is because they want to control you and fuck you over. Yeah, you have the American dreams, but on our terms. We're going to get cheap, highly skilled labor, and we're going to lower that market. So if you're talking about, for instance, somebody in cybersecurity who normally would be roughly $10,000 to $15,000 a month, they can lower that whole industry down to $8,000 to $12,000 a month. Why? Because they're accepting these H-1B visas people over, and that's the average going rate when you have more people who are coming in from other countries, and they'll accept the going rate, or they'll get somebody else to do it, and they can control them with their visa status, so they can't demand more overtime. It's a control game. It's a control game. And the people already here who might be minorities, we got to cut them down because they're taking the good jobs. We can't have them having the good jobs. We can't have them having benefits. And oh, by the way, if they're white people who have the same benefits, like SNAP benefits or Medicaid, Medicare, we're going to fuck them too. They're so stupid, they don't even realize they're being fucked. They think it's the liberals somehow who don't control the country are screwing them over. They will believe this lie, and they have. Many of which have, not many of which haven't, and realize, oh, wait a minute, you guys are screwing me. But that's what they're afraid of. They're trying to turn this shit around as quickly as they can. That's why they've been doing what they're doing for the last 11 months, y'all. They're trying to get all of us in the last 11 months to get this done as quickly as possible, because they know in 2026 it's going to be that ass. It's going to be that ass. And Trump, shit, he may not be living by the end of the year because of his health. You see, he keeps falling asleep, knocking off. One day he's going to fall asleep, and he may not wake up. And then on top of that, you got a scenario where this guy, if he makes it past this year, we're talking about 7 months. So they moving quick to get as much legislation as they can. They're trying to make America great again by making more white people get more advantages again. While At the same time, using those same white people, those poor white people, middle-class white people, to give billionaires tax breaks so they can get billionaire money over and shut down hospitals and kill tens of thousands of people. You know, if they get rid of the Affordable Care Act or raise the subsidy price, they're gonna more than double it, right? So that 250 may turn to 800. You know, and when that happens, it's been estimated that the 20 million, it could be up to 4 million Americans go without insurance because they don't have the money. If they don't have the money, then what happens? More than 1% of them die, slow or quickly. 50,000 Americans. Here's the fucked up part. That's why those 8 Democrats capitulated. Because they knew this was going to get so fucked up that they could have higher numbers in 2026. And I know it pains your stomach to think that there were Democrats who did that just as much as there would be Republicans. But it is happening. I'm not going to leave this on a sour note. I am going to say that our country has always have a way of fighting back and checks and balances. I'm going to say you should get as educated as you can. But I will say this, and I repeatedly have said this for last year, even before, that unfortunately this did have to happen because there are people who did not believe last year that this could happen. And what you need to do is get yourself educated. Again, black people, you NAACP, ACLU, Indivisible, people who were born from parents that weren't born here and they're American citizens, whether they're American citizens or you are American citizen, born as an American citizen, start getting with immigration lawyer and nonprofits. That'll be your start to give you an idea to find out the latest information is happening on this because it's happening. I do have a bit of good news to end this with, and that is there have been, according to Politico, over 700, there's basically 1,400 cases out there involving the Trump administration. 700 are immigration, and out of that 700, 225 we've already won. We won 225. That's an amazing number. That tells us that they're in trouble. That also tells us when 25 of those judges were Trump-appointed judges, that it's not just on the left. So even though this is a hard fight, this is a good fight. But the bad news is in the lower courts, 99%, we got 70% in lower courts on average or more kicking ass, or, because they've been losing 70%, the Trump administration. That's why they shoot stuff up to the Supreme Court. They can't shoot everything out of that 1,400 up there, but they can shoot some powerful things. And right now they got powerful stuff up there. And I want you to be prepared for the decision that goes the wrong way. That's what this is all about. It's a wake-up call. It's not about fear-mongering you. It's about getting you prepared. You know which group you're in. Definitely get prepared, okay? I love you. Stay strong. God bless America. You know what to do.